we are talking about a topic that's on everyone's mind: AI and how it's shaping the future, especially how it's affecting Gen Z and our next generations. Today, we'll be talking to Harita, who is a tech leader herself working with AI and who's also mom to two teenagers who are using AI. So she's not just a parent, she's on the front lines experiencing firsthand how this technology is impacting the next generation. So let's get started. We are here today with Harita Tipparaju. She is a senior engineering manager at Expedia Group. Harita, why don't you tell us about yourself and your experience with AI?
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having me. I'm Harita, Senior Manager of Engineering at Expedia Group. I have been here for more than 8 years now, been leading multiple teams and multiple critical projects, enabling high impactful features on our conversational platform. It's a virtual agent chatbot platform, so I have been within the AI space since quite a while now. Although I'm more on the services and the features layer of this, but I'm partnering with the teams where they are doing the natural language processing and machine learning and all of that. So it's kind of not new, but still new. You know, you're always learning space.
Can you tell us about your family a little bit?
Yeah, I have two kids, two boys. One is in high school, one is in middle school. So it's a tough age, lots of activities, lots of studies, activities, games, whole 9 yards. It's a tough age to manage kids' work and as well as like the learning, this whole new changing realm of things in the technology.
Seems like you're a very busy mom, and I think moms in general, doesn't matter the age, it's always busy. What have you done with AI so far, and what tools do you use, whether it's for personal or at work?
I guess even a commoner is nowadays is using AI in some way or the form, right? All these social platforms are built in AI within them, but they don't know that it's AI. Even back in India, I've seen folks last year when I went to India, I was amazed with folks using YouTube and like these platforms, Insta and everything, and becoming influencers. They don't know how it is they are using the AI, but still using the AI. I'm in technology. I know it's all the platform is built with the AI as a back. And my kids who are in high school, like as I mentioned, my high schooler uses AI in some shape or form in terms of education for learning concepts or chemistry concepts or something. Have been using AI, and he complains to me that hey, it is sometimes it's not giving me the right results. That yes, that's what it is. In general, I can see every one of us is so used to the AI tools like Alexa, Google Home, tools like social platforms like YouTube, Insta. Folks unknowingly use AI to help them build their social network, build their platforms, build their marketing platforms. LinkedIn uses AI. So professional platforms are also using AI. So I see AI everywhere now. So that's the present and the future.
Like you mentioned, Insta, Facebook, all of the algorithms behind the scenes have been running AI for a while. That's how they pick up on the user's likings, the different interests they have, and that's how the feed changes based on the preferences. We have been using it for a while without even knowing yet. It's just become more prominent now because these LLMs are available for all of us now to play around with. And you're absolutely right. My daughter is also in high school, and Gen Z is always been really good with technology. So with, I think, the next generation, it's going to be hard for them to imagine that there was a world without AI initially.
Yes. I mean, as a matter of fact, they have to be using it because as long as folks understand it's a tool to improve their productivity, and they can continue to use it. So if you use AI as a productivity tool, and it's all of these kids, the Gen Z, it's inbuilt in their system to use AI in some shape or form.
So speaking of Gen Z, yes, they are using technology much more and really adopting all of the new tools, including AI that's coming up. What are some of the risks that you see?
One of the biggest risks is they need to understand that it's a tool And one of the things they need to understand is what you feed in. The model is learning from us. So as long as you feed the right thing into it, it will get the right output. So garbage in, garbage out. So they have to understand that it can be biased. It can have biased information, outdated information. If the data or the models are not getting updated, you are bound to get incorrect information. So they have to be aware of the fact that they need to do the fact checks and make sure they use it as a tool, not losing their originality. So understanding that the innovation should always come from within, it should be helping with their time or productivity. So there's a risk in the sense that, sometimes if you rely on it too much, you will lose your innovation capability.
It's kind of like I have lost the ability to read a map. I rely too much on Google Maps right now. And if that's not working, it's very hard for us to even comprehend, like, what do we do now? Yeah. Another risk I see is the privacy concerns. Just like when MySpace came out, Facebook came out, it did not have a lot of guardrails around it. And we have seen the harmful impact it has caused on kids and teens. And it's the same thing that's right now going on with AI. And I'm not even talking about big models like ChatGPT or Gemini or anything like that. There's so many tools that are built on top of these models or using the open source models. There are no regulations and policies around it yet because the governments are also catching up to it. There are no guidelines per se.
The ethics and responsibility. Responsible AI is what they're calling, right? Everyone has to be cognizant of the fact that you not have to give the personal data, obviously, because it reads everything, it understands everything. Also, there are a lot of pushback from the art and other folks because obviously there's this generative AI, which is generating these images and pictures. So the original art is lost. So there are some implications.
And with our kids, we have to teach them because those guardrails don't exist yet. Yeah. So we have to tell them, yes, these are tools in your tool set, but you have to use them responsibly. It's our responsibility because it's not taught in schools right now. There's no policies around it. There's nothing from companies around it just yet. So I think all of the burden is right now on parents to make sure that the way our kids are using it, they stay safe with the data and what kind of data we're providing it, and it can stay there for years because if they use it to train their models, it cannot be erased. So we have to be very, very careful of that. How did you start on your AI journey? How did you first start? How did you learn?
My first interaction in the professional space is with an Expedia. I'm part of the platform where we are building. We've been lucky to be part of that first version of that platform where we were using the NLU and machine learning models to build that conversational chatbot platform. So that is my first interaction with an intent and natural language processing. And as part of that, I was also one of the courses I went with Alexa's skill kit in one of the Reinvent conferences. So that's where my first experience with learning what are models, what does it do, what is it learning, what are the recommendation platforms and reinforcement engines. And ever since, it's been grown. We have had several versions in building that platform. We have used multiple large language models, intent processing, so natural language processing systems. So it's been a great journey so far, trying to learn, and there's so much to learn, and everything changes in the blink of an eye. First was like AI, then it is supervised learning, then it is reinforcement learning, then it's generative.
Every day, there's either new tools or new models, new papers coming up. It's amazing the speed at which you are moving in this area. So how do you keep yourself up to date? Like you said, it is changing in the blink of an eye.
I'm always learning. I'm a lifelong learner is what I keep saying to myself. So I sign up with courses outside of work or even in Expedia. We're lucky to have things like Day of Learning and hackathons and such. Recently, we had Day of Learning where my peer team introduced problem domains. what does it mean to have the prompt engineering? What makes prompt efficient? So it was a great thing to be part of. Also, do it on my own, on my off time or in the weekends to do the learning.
You mentioned about prompt and prompt engineering. Can you give me some example?
One of the sites that we were shown in the day of learning had such good content about how to write a prompt, how to build the context, what are the examples of it, clearly stating the intent and the keywords, right? The keywords are important, and you are also setting the parameters about like, hey, you want the outcome in 500 sentences. What is fed is what is given. So it's more about being very specific about the prompt and refining the prompts. It's also about hallucination. Sometimes it can lead with very inappropriate or inefficient outcome that you're looking for. So I would say try out multiple prompts when you want to do something. Give you an example. If I say, how was your weekend? You would say, going to be fine. But instead, if I would ask, you mentioned you wanted to try out a new hiking trail this past weekend. How did that go? You're giving that context, and it honestly, a person will give out more details about it. It's very similar to how you ask an AI. So you'll have to ask, what is the context? What is the outcome you want? What details do you want? And it can be conversational, right? One of the prompts that I've seen in my kids' thing was, explain me something about quadratic equations and quadratic problems, right? Like this is my middle schooler. He's trying to ask it a question. So it was very short and on point. So it came out with a decent outcome with some examples. As long as the intent is very specific, it gives the right outcome. But if you say, write a post about some topic, you are not being very specific. Like, what is the outcome that you want? What is the target audience? Are you building up your profile for advertising or for marketing, or is it a sales pitch? So the audience is important. The context is important. The outcome that you want is important. Like you can say that, hey, I wanted it less than 500 words or 150 words. As long as you can be specific without giving very personalized information, you can still set your tone in those prompts to give the right tone in that outcome.
So if you don't give it enough information, it will just make things up, and that's when it starts hallucinations. So you really have to give it the boundaries. You have to give it show the intent, the scope, the role, and you have to be very, very specific.
And give you any information. And it's also going to be outdated information too.
And how do you think the way you learn is different from how Gen Z learns or plays around with technology?
I am amazed with how they learn because they're born with an iPad or iPhone. So they are much more familiar with using the technology, understanding what it is, but also they learn from their peer community a lot. So it's a great way of learning. Luckily, my son is in part of a group. They're doing some project. They are tinkering with how to learn with the ChatGPT. So community they are in helps them a lot versus we are while tackling the job. I mean, unless you're intentional about learning and signing up in a course, it's going to be hard. So for them, some of their teachers also help out giving these concepts.
Have you used any tools like Copilot or any such tools for your software engineering tasks?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There is a big push and drive and expect to use GitHub Copilot to be efficient in terms of deliveries. One of the biggest drives last quarter was to use it for writing our tests, all of the unit tests, the intent, this is what it should be, and the outcomes. So lots of tutorials that were run by the teams that are partnering with the GitHub Copilot teams. So we had improved our tech debt in terms of improving our unit test coverage and all of that through this tool.
So you think it's actually improving the productivity you mentioned in terms of tests and in terms of the speed, right?
You can also improve the documentation through GitHub Copilot. You can also use it to generate small functions, and it's fast, and you can keep your documentation update. So it's definitely going to improve the productivity, and the developers can actually focus on the right things in terms of delivering the business goals and let ChatGPT deal with testing.
So there is this fear in the industry with Devin coming, and then Meenakshi came with these autonomous agents that ChatGPT or these kind of agents, Copilot, they're going to replace software engineers. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that's true as long as keep using these tools responsibly and ethically. It's not going to replace the engineers. It's only going to make our lives much more efficient because we have improved our productivity. Generative AI still is in a very infant stage. So it has a long way to grow. And there are so many domains that still need the help with generative AI, like legal education space, and there are so many domains that need this technology to make the lives efficient. I don't think it's going to replace any of the engineers, at least in the near future.
And like you said, even with prompts, unless you tell it the exact thing, it doesn't do it. So when you're programming, there's so much that goes through someone's brain. These tools can come up with some easy methods and they can improve the efficiency. But overall, building a product, yeah, we're a little bit far away from that, at least right now. Harita, what do you think the future looks like 10 years from now?
When I'm talking with the kids, they are working with the computers, they're working with the phone all the time, and they're using these tools. So they will become excellent prompt engineers. So that's for sure. One of the first things that all of the jobs in next years is prompt engineering will be like a skill that is a must have for these kids. So it's going to be game changing. I'm also curious on how it looks like, but I think it's going to be the AI will be one of the first in their tool belts that they can always rely and probably get better in the future, less of hallucinations and better prompt engineering, and probably there are more robust tools on top of this will probably make lives of all these NZ much more easier and simpler.
Just like these days, we don't even ask, can you use a computer in most of the jobs? It's just a requirement. I think you're absolutely right. Prompt engineering is just going to be expected that everyone just knows that. I'm also curious to see what the future looks like. I'm excited and scared at the same time.
I want to take it as from a growth mindset. So I just want to be positive about this, the impact of it. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed there.
Yeah, all of us are. Thank you so much, Harita. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you, Mamta. Absolutely loved the session. So thank you so much for having me.